Well, good morning, everybody. I apologize for our tartiness, most humbly. I guess I was just too excited about the Sixers win. I still had to compose myself with the Sixers losing or not having Joel Embiid, not having Ben Simmons, and then still going out and scoring 127 points against Chicago. Not that Chicago is really anything worth bragging about, as we know, but when you don't have Joel Embiid, you don't have Ben, and you don't have a recently throughout the season, you want to see something, you want to see a spark, you don't expect it, but you want to see it. And last night you got it. If you would have told me that they would have put up 127 points, Tobias Harris would go off, but struggle in the beginning. Tony Bradley would go just bonkers as the replacement center to the point of Joel Embiid hinting on social media, on Twitter, that there was going to be a center controversy. I would have said, you know what, you're crazy. But that's why they play the games, as the old cliche goes. And you know what? It's a cliche simply because it's true. That's why you play the games, and that's why they played last night. I was blown away last night in watching the Sixers. I was blown away at watching the guys that usually come off the bench for this team that were getting significant minutes in this game. And I think Doc Rivers was equally as blown away. And it really started back with the first practice since the All-Star break. They get everybody together again. Doc Rivers isn't even there, but Doc Rivers was sick in bed, not feeling well, watching the practice tape, watching the tape of these guys running around in practice. And he said, this is where your veterans step up. After the game last night, after the victory against the Bulls, where they survived without their two best players, after that victory, he said, your veterans stepped up. Seth Curry and Danny Green reined everybody in at practice, made sure they had a great, hard practice in their first practice back from the All-Star game, knowing that they wouldn't have better Joe, and they go to Chicago, and they played like veterans should. And they led the team yesterday. They might not have led the team in points. They might not have been going bonkers on the box score, but they at least went out and were leaders and made sure that team was ready to play. And Tobias Harris, like I said, struggled early in that game, and then ended up having a game high. That was exactly what you wanted to see from Tobias Harris. But when you get helpers from guys like Tony Bradley, who I mentioned, you get helpers from guys like Dwight Howard, Shake Milton, Furkan hitting some shots. And I thought in the third quarter, you felt like this game was going to be, the momentum was the Sixers all the way through. And the Sixers came out in that third quarter, and Tobias Harris had that corner three that I really felt was the deal sealer for this game. And you knew the Sixers would have it from start to finish. And what I really enjoyed about this, and how great is Daryl Morey? He's got a lot of work to do. He's got a lot of work in front of him here. But how great is this? Last night, tweets out during the game, Sixers bench right now with the angry emoji of Ron Swanson, who's one of my favorite television characters of all time, portrayed by Nick Offerman. Show me some damned respect. That's what the Sixers bench was right now. And the GM of the Sixers, Daryl Morey, tweeted that out last night to just let everybody know what was going on with that bench and those guys stepping up. And you don't win that game without the bench playing the way they do, or the way they did. And you certainly don't win it, and you certainly don't take control of the game the way you did without the guys on the bench stepping up. And everybody looked comfortable. And the stat that came out after the game, Josh Schrager, the director for the Sixers broadcast on NBC Sports Philadelphia, put out the stat last night saying that the Tony Bradley's the first Sixers center to be perfect since Nerlens Noel back in the process days. That's not too bad. That's not too bad right there. And you love the support that they're getting from everybody, especially when the number one thing that we have been talking about before the trade deadline is if you don't go out there and get a big name, if you don't go out there and get a veteran to put into the starting rotation, a guy that can create for himself, a guy like Kyle Lowry, then you're going to have to rely on the bench. If you don't go out and get that big addition, you got to go get somebody to help the bench. And there's some more news on that. PJ Tucker supposedly not playing anymore. Sham Charania, The Athletic, Woj putting out last night that it's 2 weeks before the NBA trade deadline, and it looks like PJ Tucker is really pissed off at the Houston Rockets, and he doesn't want to play. They're not going to play him until they are able to trade him For his sake, he wants to be traded to a contender, as you would assume. But as of right now, he's getting Blake Griffined, which basically means he ain't playing until they trade him. So if the trade is going to happen, hopefully it happens sooner rather than later, if it is, in fact, the Sixers to help bolster their bench. But if you weren't going to make that big deal for Kyle Lowry, you're not going to get somebody of a greater ilk. You're going to go and get somebody to at least help your bench. And last night, we saw the bench take care of business in a game where they were absolutely shorthanded. And this was the type of game that you felt, all right, maybe this is the one that slips away. The line was 3 going into this game, and the Sixers were underdogs going into this game. And they steal this win, then they get Joe back. You can feel a lot better going forward. Then you're going to have Ben Simmons back, and then you have your healthy roster, and all is right with the world. Well, they go out and they handle their business. They had a tight first quarter. Second quarter, they took control. Third quarter, they ran away with it. Fourth quarter, by 5 minutes left, you had, I hate to say this, but you had Tyrese Maxey in just trying to get minutes for himself. And the one thing, Tobias Harris, I think most people would have said, if you didn't have Ben and you didn't have Joe, but you had Tobias Harris was going to have himself a game high. That happened. Good for him. But the other aspect of this was Matisse Thybulle, who we've been talking about all year as a guy that you wanted to see take that next step. You knew the D was there in terms of the defense when it came to the 3 and D. The 3 needs to come along if Matisse Thybulle wants to get some more minutes with this squad, wants to be even more in the rotation come playoff time. And the 3 was there for him last night. A couple of different situations he was able to spot up at three-point land and knock down those shots. His defense was off the charts. 4 or 5 steals for him last night. He was incredible defensively, as we have come to expect from Matisse Thybulle. But the three-point aspect of his game was there last night. And Doc Rivers got asked about that in postgame last night, and he said that's what we're trying to get from him. That's the exact type of player that we want to get. That's the exact type of player and playing style that we want to get from a guy like Matisse Thybulle, because we know his defense is going to be there every night. We know his defense is going to be there every single night, every single day. But if that three-point shot can start falling for him with a little bit more regularity, then you're talking about a guy that could be getting substantial minutes in the playoffs, and not just for defensive reasons. So that was great. And man, the Chicago Bulls, they were just jacking up threes yesterday. And they went ice cold for a while, and that's when the Sixers were able to go on their run and take care of it. Because when they were getting that many opportunities, that many defensive rebounds, getting to go the other way with it and run it, they were up tempo for a lot of last night. I guess they didn't want to get into offensive sets, half-court sets with the lineup they had, but they were getting into a lot of run-and-gun situations, and they were going to the rim. They were attacking the rim, and that was great. Mike Scott, I mean, everybody that played scored for the Sixers last night. Mike Scott hit a corner 3 that I think put him on the board late in that game. So you saw guys continue to gain momentum as that game went on. And it was delightful. It was delightful to sit back and think, I didn't think we'd be in this situation come the fourth quarter, where it was going to be like, all right, who hasn't played? Who hasn't scored? Get in the game. I mean, you saw that Ferguson was getting run last night. So pleasantly surprised by what the Sixers did, and so just blown away by what they were able to do without Ben and Joe. And you can't say it enough, because that's the story of the game. Going into Chicago, coming off the All-Star break, didn't have their coach at practice. They had excuses lined up. And instead of saying, well, this isn't going to be us, they did what good teams are supposed to do. They did what deep teams are supposed to do. They had guys step up. And sometimes that seems like it's too much to ask for. Not in this particular case. It was exactly what they should have done, and that's what they did. So that was a great win for the Sixers last night, considering the circumstances. Great to get the second half of the season started off right. That's the Sixers. The Flyers was a totally different story. They lose 5-3 to the Capitals in a game that I know they just want to wipe off the books as soon as humanly possible. The Flyers, we know, are in a little bit of a free fall mode right now. That's what it feels like with their marquee goaltender not exactly playing up to par recently. He doesn't get a lot of run right now, so you don't see you see a lot more of Moose, you see a lot more of Brian Elliott, and last night wasn't a lot of Brian Elliott in terms of whose fault it was. This was, if you're what's Carter Hart supposed to do with this defense? If you're that type of person, Last night was a big win for you because what was Brian Elliott supposed to do with guys turning the puck over left and right? Ivan Provorov not being able to corral the puck along the boards that went right on Alexander Ovechkin's stick to be the first goal for the Capitals of that game. And then you see a guy like Carlson get open in the slot. You see a guy like Dowd be able to just get another turnover, skate through two people, put it off a ghost skate. I mean, there was nothing the Flyers could have done right last night. And after the game, Alain Vigneault was asked about the energy as things started off.
I was more concerned about our execution really than our energy. I felt that they are a team that they put hard pressure. They play a real tight game. They make the lines real hard, and then their zone they play man on man. And there are plays with the puck that you need to make in all three of those zones. And unfortunately, in their end, we made some costly mistakes that led to rush opportunities that they were able to put in the back of our net. We had a push in the third, but it was obviously too late.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was too late for the Flyers. But the big thing in this game was turnovers, and Alain Vigneault got asked about the turnovers after the game that really led to the big goals. The no better example than the Alexander Ovechkin one, and he talks about that here because this was the difference in the game.
That's it right there. I mean, their first goal, it's a pass to Vanya that I think he should pick up, and he doesn't. And one of the best, if not the best, all-time NHL scorer is out there just one-timing it. So, that's tough play. And the second, we lost it in an area where you can't lose the puck, and they came right back and, got a breakaway off that. So, mistakes that you can't do, and we did. And we'll re-energize tomorrow, regroup, and get ready for our next game.
And that's all you can do, obviously. But I credit Alain Vigneault for being a guy that knows how to push the buttons. A button needs to be pushed right now with this Flyers team because they just look lackadaisical. And I'm watching the Sixers in real time, watching the Flyers starting off, go to the Sixers, come back to the Flyers. And it's weird because you see these spurts of energy and you see these guys out there playing like they should be playing. Travis Konechny, birthday boy, gets a goal yesterday. Scott Lawton has these periods where he's showing you that he can, be a really good goal scorer for you. And then you just see these lulls of one, I don't know if it's exhaustion. I don't know if it's lack of effort. I don't know what it is. But it doesn't look right. Lackadaisical is what it looks like. And then you see other plays where it's just dumb hockey. And when you can't corral the puck, like I said, with the play with Provy, if you can't corral the puck around the blue line, it's going to lead to a goal going the other way. That's exactly what happened on the second goal for the Flyers last night. So it left a lot to be desired, and hopefully they're going to get off the schneid. And they certainly were able to do it a year ago. They looked like a bad hockey team last year, and then they were able to all of a sudden win 9 in a row and then get the top seed in the bubble. So hopefully turning the corner is just around the corner for the Flyers. So we will hope that happens in the very near future. Coming up, we're going to tell you about some fine sponsors of the program. We're also going to talk to Darryl Reynolds of Villanova fame. Tough loss for Villanova. Maybe he can help us with what Nova's going to be able to do in the NCAA tournament and also walk us through some of the stuff that's going to be going on with the 76ers. And hopefully we can get some explanation for what they have going on. But right now, let me tell you about my good friend Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Steven is taking care of everybody right now, as he always does. And I love talking about my friend. And I'll tell you, the competition must really hate this guy. He just makes the experience of buying a diamond better. He makes it fun. And Steven is the first every single year to make sure you're getting the best offer. He's making sure that every customer is taken care of with the perfect price. If you ever wondered what the best price is, if you're uncomfortable negotiating, go to Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. You're guaranteed the perfect price every time. You'll never pay more. The guy sitting next to you, guess what? Paying the same price, the perfect price. Little insider tip, most jewelers mark their merchandise way up just to be able to mark it down in front of you so you feel like you're getting a deal. The guy next to you, no, Not paying any less, not paying any more. The perfect price every single time. Steven Singer, that's the case every single time. Because Steven Singer Jewelers, you're guaranteed that perfect price all day, every day, 365 days a year. And that's why we trust Steven Singer of Steven Singer Jewelers. Makes the experience of buying a diamond so easy and so comfortable. Check out Steven Singer Jewelers at the other corner of 8th and Walnut in Philly or online at IHateStevenSinger.com. Steven Singer Jewelers, one place, one price. I'm going to try to bring in this gentleman right now. From the 2016 Villanova Wildcats national championship team, D-Ray, we affectionately know him as. We'll bring him in.
The point guard position was split between him and Colin. Now he has a couple days to heal properly instead of focusing on getting back out there on the floor, which means that when the tournament time comes, he's going to be that much more ready. Jeremiah played great. Jermaine played great. I love what Eric Dixon did in the first half. Chris Arcidiacono showed some flashes of brilliance. So it's like I like that these guys are going to have a second to kind of get it together, as opposed to jumping right into the tournament.
Yeah, no, I am too. Can they bounce back? I mean, look, I know you never want to blame injuries. You never want to use it as an excuse. But can they bounce back from this without having, the obvious, Colin Gillespie, for instance? Can they bounce back from this without having their marquee guys?
Yes. Yes, yes. I
All
mean,
right.
Villanova is built on you're talking to a guy who was a role player for so long, and it was like when I got my shot, I made it happen. There's so many guys that when they get their shot, they make it happen. There's so much talent on these teams. It's really a next man up mentality. Coach Wright doesn't harp on the idea of we need this person, we need that person. Obviously, it would be a lot easier, it would be a lot better. You would like it a lot more, but to be completely honest, it's like, all right, it's some guy. Obviously, you don't ever want to see anybody get injured, but when somebody goes down, somebody else is saying, all right, I've been busting my behind in practice. This is my shot. You know what I mean? So I have faith in, like I said, Eric Dixon, Brian Antoine, Justin Moore, quite frankly, stepping into his full leadership role, which he will be as a junior next year. So, no. I think they're going to be good.
It's funny, we're having this conversation right now simply because that's exactly what the Sixers did last night in Chicago. They don't have Ben Simmons. They don't have Joel Embiid. And you have guys like Tony Bradley stepping up out of nowhere. As a role player, and then, as you just said, you got to cash in when that opportunity is knocking.
Exactly.
So how do you stay ready, mentally prepared for that type of, setup and that type of opportunity?
First and foremost, a good attitude. I've seen so many times where guys will get called up on the bench, and this is at every level. This is high school, college basketball. Guys get caught up on the bench with a sulky attitude, and then when you get thrown in the mix, your head stuck on what was before. You can't even focus on what's coming up next. So it's really just staying positive, staying ready, and practicing like you're going into a game. You know what I mean? Like, I'm speaking from experience, but if you practice in the way like, listen, whoever this guy is in front of, I'm going at him every day like he's the one truly eating up my minutes, then when you get in the game, you don't have to adjust. And I think that's what Tony Bradley did last night. I know we all saw the tweet from Joel, like, listen, make Tony Bradley the full time. I was like, I love it. But he wouldn't have done that if he wasn't going at him every day in practice, man. So it's like, you got to have a good attitude. You got to stay ready. And obviously that's a lot easier said than done, but it's Philly, man. That's what it is, a fight.
Every single night. Absolutely.
Exactly,
I do have to ask you about your old coach, Jay Wright, Hall of Fame finalist. It's weird.
Yes.
like we look at Jay Wright and it's like we always look at him as a young guy. I don't know, maybe because I'm bald and he has a beautiful head of black and luscious locks. But like, is that hair envy? I think it is. But D-Ray, he goes out there. He's a two-time national champion, which I don't have to tell you. And he's already a Hall of Fame. I was talking to a buddy of mine yesterday who was a Georgetown guy, by the way. What's up, B? And I know, I'm sorry. And we're like, wow, already. Like it's like you think to yourself already, but you're like, no, absolutely already a finalist.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Absolutely is the perfect word. No. I definitely think he's gonna I think he's gonna make it. I mean, his career so far, what he's done. And quite frankly, he's a young coach. Like people don't understand, like Coach K is like 70 plus. Boeheim, 70 plus. And I'm not knocking them, but
no,
I'm saying like
that was exactly our point yesterday when we were having this conversation. It was like, it's because he's not like 90 years old that we're not like, oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's quite frankly a young coach in his profession, but like I've seen it up close and personal from both sides, from being a player and a coach on his staff. Like that man eats, sleeps, and breathes basketball. Every conversation you have with him is gonna make it back to basketball. Every analogy is gonna make it back to basketball. So it's great to see it happen for somebody who dedicates so much of their time and energy for it. I'm just so happy your question wasn't about the damn suits. I'm so sick of talking about his suits, man. Like, I gotta be honest. Can I curse on here? Can I curse on here?
Yeah, go for it. Sure.
I don't give a shit about the suits. They're great, but it's like every question is about the damn suits. I'm happy it was about something with some substance. So thank you, Farzy. Thank you.
Now, it's funny you mentioned that. You just reminded me I had 10 questions about the suits. No, I mean, we get it. We know the man can dress.
Exactly.
But so here's where I want you to take me behind the scenes a little bit. I've talked to Jay Wright a handful of times, and he owns the room. He definitely has that quality about him. Mm-hmm. But when you're in the locker room and things are tough, like last night, what's he saying to the team after that loss to Georgetown? What do you think he's saying?
I will say, and I actually talked to somebody about this yesterday, one of his best abilities as a leader is managing his emotions at times like that. So I could imagine him just so fired up and so riled up. He probably didn't say anything because it's one of those things like if I say what I'm thinking now, I'll probably look back later and be like, that wasn't the best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I imagine a locker room where you could hear a penny drop. You know what I mean? And he was just like, listen, let's get out of here. You know, give them their props, as he always tell us. Give them their props. You know, they fought hard. We didn't make it happen. We'll watch the film and figure out what's going on and come back better next. You know what I mean? Next game. But he has a very like next game up mentality, and that's after a win or a loss. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, he definitely seems like he has that mentality. And look, of course, I've never been in a locker room with the guy, but just having conversations about him, very real. Like I remember talking to him about Colin Gillespie went to Archbishop Wood High School, and I went to Archbishop Wood, and I saw him win the city championship, the Catholic League championship, and all that against I think it was Newman Goretti. And I asked him about Colin Gillespie. I was like, I got to ask you about him. You know, he's a Wood guy and all that. And he goes, in a way, I feel not bad for Colin Gillespie because people are going to see a 6-foot kid from the burbs, a 6-foot white kid from the burbs, basically, and you're going to go, oh, he's Ryan Arcidiacono. And like that's not fair to him. And he might grow into that role. But people are going to compare him to Ryan Arcidiacono out of the gate. Yeah. And I think Colin Gillespie's handled that well.
Very much so. Very much so. And Colin is very, like, he carved out his own kind of place. I love the fight in that kid. And obviously, they would love to have him out there right now. But I'm very excited to see what he does at the next level, too. Because although he's not Arch, he's way more athletic. You know what I mean? Like, Colin can dunk. And people don't know that, but Colin can seriously, he can legitimately dunk. So I'm very excited to see how his athleticism plays out. He got a little more, he got a little bit more flavor than Arch's game. Arch was a general, you know what I mean? So it's interesting to see that comparison and how similar they are, how similar they look. I'm gonna call it what it is. It was one time he was in a room and I straight up was like, yo, I was looking down because I think it was actually after, no BS. It was after a Georgetown win, my senior year. Coaches in the locker room just kind of going in on us. We BS'd at the end of the game. We were up by 20. And, he's talking to us after the game. I got my head down and I'm looking out the corner of my eye and I see somebody in the corner. And I'm like, damn, man, Archton came home. We done messed up his coming home party or whatever. And I looked up and it was Colin. I was like, all right, that's scary as hell. But yeah, man, Colin has definitely, carved out his own place in Villanova history, which is amazing to see. He's definitely a good dude.
So you're doing a lot of things for yourself now, all right? What do you got? What do you got going on for yourself right now? I know you just did a show yesterday. What's going on?
No, so I did the TED Talk. Villanova was gracious enough to host a TEDx on campus in their new Mullen Center, and I was the speaker. So I just went up there, and man, like since 2018, I haven't been playing. I got hurt. I had a career-ending injury, and these past couple years have been just very insightful. And I see a lot of players struggle with injuries, or that kind of after the game effect when guys kind of come down from that high of being professionals or high school players, or high class college players. And I was like, all right, let me kind of use my story to help people like that. And then as I started to write it, I realized it was bigger than basketball. And when I sent it to the TED people, they thought the same thing. So I was like, all right, it's enough thoughts going on there. You know what I mean? Let me put them on paper, and it worked out.
Good for you, man. Well, I can't thank you enough for hopping on with us live on the show. We so rarely. You're the first live guest. You're the only live guest other than Riley Cote. You guys are my two live guys, so I appreciate that.
I got you, man. I got you.
All right, now look, this is coming from a Temple guy. Good luck to Villanova in the tournament, my friend.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that.
All right, and then next time we'll have you on to just talk strictly Jay Wright suits. Nothing but Jay Wright suits.
Yeah, nothing but suits.
D, you're the man. Thank you for joining us on the Zados Investments guest line. Thank you so much.
All right, Farzy, I see you.
My man, appreciate you. D-Ray, Darryl Reynolds checking us out there. See you on the live. I got a shift. We don't have the cameramen. We don't have a cameraman, actually. So I gotta be spry and agile and move around. But D-Ray and I were going back and forth last night to try to get him on the show, and he was able to hop on live today. And I'm thinking, and I'm glad he walked me right into it. But during the game, I'm thinking of him while I'm watching the Sixers, because you think about those guys, like Darryl Reynolds said, that were role players and they got the opportunity. Boom, they took advantage. And of course, I'm thinking about it because I'm trying to have him on the show to talk Villanova basketball a little bit. With the NCAA tournament coming up and them just getting bounced out, unfortunately, of the Big East tourney to Georgetown. And a side note to all that, Patrick Ewing saying, playing in Madison Square Garden, yeah, this is my house anyway. I get it to a point. It's a flex, big flex from Patrick Ewing. But I think Darryl Reynolds set it up nicely. Talking about how you got to make sure you're taking advantage of these opportunities when they are knocking at your door. Sixers did that with their bench last night. Villanova almost did it yesterday by being able to make a statement without having some of their marquee players playing for them. And it was tough watching some of that game and thinking Nova's up 11. I believe there was about 8:40 left in the game. And you're thinking Villanova's going to close this out. But without those marquee guys, without those closers, for lack of a better term, it's going to be tough. And Georgetown, their opportunities started knocking. They were perfect from the free throw line yesterday. Perfect from the free throw line yesterday. So that was pretty tough. All right, coming up a little bit later, we got our morning rush segment. We also have our big bets. It's not a bad beat, but it felt like a bad beat for me. And we'll talk about that with my losing bet. God, I have gone terrible. I have gone mush as far as I'm concerned. Big idiot. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. We do have a Farzy in the field for you coming up in just a few, and plenty of more Flyers conversation that we want to jump on from last night's game as well. But right now, I want to tell you about my friends at Zados Investments. Zados, an up-and-coming luxury real estate development investment company in the Philadelphia area. They design and develop top-of-the-line custom homes all around the city, ranging from small single-family rehabs to ground-up new construction townhomes and condo buildings. Zados also works closely with their private investor base to provide them with substantial returns on their investment, ranging from 20 to 40%. These guys are crushing the Philadelphia real estate game right now. To see some of their properties and check them out, this is what you could do. You could go to info@zadosinvestments.com to learn how you can invest, or you could go to zadosinvestments.com. Like I said, they're crushing it in the Philadelphia real estate game. So if you want to see their properties and learn how you can invest, go to info@zadosinvestments.com or just simply visit zadosinvestments.com. Speaking of big bets, a little bit later in the show, I always bet with DraftKings Sportsbook. America's top-rated sportsbook app. They're putting new customers in the center of the action. Bet $4. How about this? Bet $4 on an underdog in the tournament, and you could win $256 if they win. That's right. Bet $4 if an underdog in a select college basketball game, and if they win, you collect $256. The bank is open. Just call bank with that. It's just that simple. There's no better way to put your college basketball knowledge to the test than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook. Don't worry if college basketball isn't for you. DraftKings Sportsbook has great odds and promotions on golf, hockey, and so much more. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, and you can deposit or withdraw your funds at your convenience with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code Farzy. That's promo code Farzy when you sign up and turn $4 into $256 if the underdog of your choosing pulls out the upset. That's promo code Farzy to turn $4 into $256 for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, present in Pennsylvania. New customers only. Restrictions apply in partnership with Meadows Racetrack and Casino. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So make sure you have some fun with that. And again, I have to tell you, Zados Investments brought us the great interview there with D-Ray. Great answers and explanations from him. Fan Up, also the app you have to download. You can win cash. You can win great prizes. You can win brand prizes like a pair of Jordans, for instance. Download the Fan Up app. The days of playing fantasy sports alone are over. Enter Fan Up's fun, super fun daily, weekly contest, answer fun questions, and rise on the leaderboard. As a matter of fact, Tobias Harris won me some points last night with Fan Up. Enter Fan Up, and you'll have so much fun. Squad up with your friends for even more fun. Fan Up. I'm doing it, and you should too. It's fun, easy, and the only place to win the hottest brand prizes like those Jordans I mentioned. Any day, any week, any season, you could be the real MVP with Fan Up. Download the Fan Up app in the App Store. Use promo code Fan Up. That's promo code Fan Up, and get 2,000 bonus points. Fan Up. May the best fan win. And speaking of Fan Up, now, we've talked a lot of Eagles for an offseason. A lot of Eagles for an offseason. Anytime you trade a quarterback, anytime stories come out about a meddling owner in the front office, you're going to be talking a lot about that team in the offseason, especially if it's related to football, which the Eagles are obviously very much related to. So I've got this issue, and it became a talking point really yesterday, where it feels like we're getting so far removed from a Super Bowl championship. And it's not just with the years that have been passing. It feels like with the way this team has been knocked backwards. Yesterday, I compared it to the World Series team of 2008 with the Phillies. It just felt like every year, because we were taking a step back and getting further and further away from that goal of winning a championship again. And that's how it feels with the Eagles right now. So it really comes down to the confidence level you have in Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. After all these stories come out, do you feel confident that with this regime, the Howie and Lurie duo, they can rebuild a Super Bowl roster? Because Howie just knocked some money off again, and this will be part of our morning rush with restructuring Javon Hargrave's deal. So if you're able to do that and continue to knock that money back and continue to make cap space and alleviate your cap pressure, if you're able to do that, then you're going to be able to make some other moves that will give you a lot more flexibility. So do you feel confident that both Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie can help win you a Super Bowl again and reconstruct the championship roster? That was one thing on my mind yesterday when I went out into the field to talk to the good people of Philadelphia, and Fan Up will bring us this segment. The other thing I was thinking, though, was yesterday, 1 year ago, the sports world changed forever. Our lives changed forever. And while we were hearing about coronavirus, and while we were hearing about COVID-19, and we were hearing it in China, we were hearing about it in Wuhan, we were hearing about it in Italy, we were hearing in Spain, all throughout Europe, Spain, France. As we were hearing about it, it was like, oh, I hope it's not here. Hope it doesn't make its way here. And then you hear the first case out in the West Coast, and then you hear a case in the school system in Bucks County, and then you're thinking it's getting closer and closer. It's here. And then Rudy Gobert. I'll never forget it. He was joking with reporters. He was touching all their stuff. And that by then, social distancing, that term we had heard about, ever so briefly, started to become more and more popular. Reporters had to be, I think it was 8 feet away at the time, if not 15 feet. It wasn't 6. It was more than that. And reporters had to be so far away from their subjects and their interview subjects. And I'll never forget Rudy Gobert just touching everything after his media session. And then Donovan Mitchell tested positive. And then the Sixers shut down. And then sports shut down. And I'll never forget that. And I remember thinking, first, as just a human being, wow, okay, even in my world, the sports world, this has become very real. And it seemed like once Rudy Gobert shut down the NBA, it seemed like that's when the world shut down. Like our world shut down. And then we were familiarized with things like shelter in place, stay-at-home orders and all that. And the pandemic and quarantine began. And I was thinking about, like, wow, what have I learned about myself in the last year? And I think one thing we have learned, a lot of us at least, is how adaptable we can be. Some people not so much. And that's you. That's fine. But other people have learned, all right, this is what I got to deal with today. Let's go. Let's do it. And as some people have dealt with this in much different ways, one thing I've definitely learned about myself is if I'm faced with something, it's like, okay, all right, let's keep moving. All right, that's going to happen. This is the situation we're in. Let's make the best of it. And I think that's what a lot of people have learned about themselves, that they can be adaptable. If they really have to be, if they're pushed to do it, they'll do it. And a lot of people, if you've made it through this year, and a lot of people going through economic turmoil, a lot of people going through things personally, if you've been alone through this entire time, God, my heart goes out to you. And hopefully you learn a lot about yourself through this time as well. So I also asked the people, along with a football question, what have you learned about yourself in the year that was? Since Rudy Gobert tested positive for coronavirus and the sports world shut down, what did you learn about yourself? So some stuff about the Eagles and some fun personal stuff in this week's edition of Farzy in the Field, brought to you by the great people of Fan Up. Here, sir, are you confident Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie can rebuild a Super Bowl champion?
Yes, I'm very confident, but it's going to take at least 2 or 3 years at least.
I think in the division they're in for sure. They definitely make the playoffs in the NFC East. Not great.
I think we can. We're the Eagles.
Absolutely not.
I mean, Hurts seems he might be all right. A little better drafting. They could maybe do it.
Always come back.
All right, do you mind if I ask your dog?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
How about you? How about the Flyers? Can the Flyers win Stanley Cups? Can the Flyers win Stanley Cups? Found another Eagles fan, sir. Are you confident Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie can rebuild a Super Bowl champion?
Confident? I don't know about confident, but I mean, they got us to a Super Bowl before, so we'll see, I guess.
Now that right there, search your soul. I don't think that's confident. Can you play defense? How are you on the blue line? Look at that. Afraid of no skater bigger. It's been 1 year since sports shut down. What have you learned about yourself in 1 year?
I can sit down for very, very long periods of time.
You have my envy. You have my envy.
I didn't know I'd miss live sports this much, and being able to go to a game in person, or even up here, go up to the sports complex and even go to like Xfinity Live and all that stuff. Kind of missing that. I don't know. I feel like I got a lot closer to my family though, so a lot of wins there, I guess you could say, right?
It's been 1 year since COVID-19 shut down the sports world. What have you learned about yourself over the last year?
There's a lot of things that I don't need that weren't as important as they were before.
Like what?
Like going to Eagles games and Sixers games because the tickets are sky high now.
It's been 1 year since sports shut down. What have you learned about yourself in the last year?
Patience. Patience.
You got it. I mean, I think we've all learned a whole new world of patience. And one thing I have definitely learned is that, and I had COVID. For those that you didn't know, for those that didn't know, I had COVID back in November, and I didn't have a horrible case of it. I never lost smell. I never lost that. Changing my daughter's diapers, I definitely knew I never lost smell. But I definitely had, I had mono when I was in college, and it was like mono with a headache. That's how I felt, and it was a really weird experience in that I had 6 days of just kind of feeling weird. Just it wasn't just a groggy or tired. Like I have been groggy and tired before. And I think I know exhaustion but I never knew exhaustion like that. I had 6 days of weirdness, 6 days of mono with a headache, and then I had 1 day of just complete. It was like looking at your phone and seeing your battery on 1% and red. Like that was me for a 24-hour period where I just sat on my sofa. And you know what it was? I think it was the Eagles bye week, as a matter of fact. And I just sat on my sofa all Sunday, watched football all day, checked in on the red zone, of course, kept up with my fantasy scores, and I didn't move. Like I didn't even get up to like eat. Or I learned a new meaning of exhaustion. That's what it was for me. And then after that, it was kind of a couple more weird days, but eventually I felt back to 100%, no lingering symptoms. I know some people in my neighborhood that have lingering symptoms, and they're still dealing with it. I know somebody else that was dealing with it for about a month, and now they're starting to feel sharp again, so that's great. But I definitely learned that I might have overused the term exhaustion before I had COVID myself. But that's definitely something I've learned. Patience is a great one. And thank you to the great people at Fan Up for bringing us that version of Farzy in the field. By the way, I'm going to try to recruit that dog for Flyers fans to play on the blue line, because what you saw last night, it was like I obviously taped that in the middle of the day, and then I watched the Flyers have all the same problems that we've seen with their defense, with their defensemen. It was like, oh, well, this will be perfect timing. Maybe this little doggy can go out there and play on the blue line. You saw him take on that golden retriever, or at least challenge him, and that golden retriever didn't want any of that smoke coming at him or her. I don't know, but yeah, I just thought it was a perfect timing situation. So that was fun. Thank you to all the people that were stopping on the street yesterday to talk to me. Always a pleasure catching up with the fans. And that one guy learned a very simple thing, that he could sit for long periods of time. Another thing I think we've learned about ourselves. So that's a beautiful thing. Good for everybody in that regard, I guess. So you got to see everybody else step up. And it's good to see people step up and have that conversation. I actually felt bad. Last thing on this, I was walking around Rittenhouse Square, and everybody was out with what, like a 70-degree day, whatever the heck it was yesterday. Like I played catch yesterday. And I was shocked that how many people, not shocked, but like so many people were just lounging, having themselves a good time in the park. And I always feel bad going up and bothering people in the middle of the beautiful, relaxing day. So I got some people walking around. And again, thank you for all the people that were able to stop and just have a conversation. Time for our social media check-in, brought to you by our good friends at Steak and Maine. Steak and Maine, Northeast Maryland. Check them out at steakandmaine.com. Laugh my ass off. Facts. Love Farzy, but the numbers say he about to lose 10 straight. Law of averages. Love you, Farzy. Nothing personal. Yeah, no, I suck at gambling right now. All right? I think that's what you're trying to tell me there, James. And I get it. It's like, it makes me feel like a big fat idiot. Like, it really does. Like, when I lose, like when I win, oh man, I outsmarted the gamblers. But when I lose, I'm like, they got me again every single time. John, laugh my ass off. I love the show. Right back at you, brother. Who else do we got here? Fade Farzy. Come on, Taylor. Fade is I got to be honest. Up until about a year ago, I wasn't much of a gambler. And now that's changed. JD, great interview. That's very nice of you, JD. Thank you very much. No, it's all D-Ray. I appreciate him jumping on with us. D-Ray is a GOAT. Sports Talk with Broads. Always good to hear from you, Broads, as well. 16 team was special. It was a very special team. That's JD checking in on the show again. Appreciate you, JD. But it was a very special run. Very special run for Villanova in 2016. And obviously our man D-Ray was a big part of that. We'll talk to D-Ray hopefully a little bit later in tournament action to get his take on just about everything. Let's get to our morning rush, brought to you by our friends at Sky Motorcars and SkyMotorcars.com. Here's what I got for you. And we talked about the Flyers losing last night. We talked about the Sixers dominating last night without Ben and Joe, 127 points and points off the bench. We talked about what's his name, Tony Bradley going out there and starting. Forget a quarterback controversy. Joel Embiid actually took to Twitter, and D-Ray referenced this, took to Twitter and said, you know what? I've seen enough. Build around Tony Bradley. Tony Bradley then quoted the tweet after the game, and he said, "Yo, appreciate you, bro," basically with crying, laughing emojis. So that was funny. But you see the way that game played out, and you're just ecstatic because they get that win without their two best guys, which is great. So we talked about that win. We talked about the Flyers' loss. The Morning Rush segment is a very simple thing. It's two subjects. Excuse me. The one thing is that I have a weird feeling that before the start of the season, probably around training camp, and maybe even before, people are going to have a much different feeling about Howie Roseman. And I think it's already started. I think Jeffrey Lurie, the stories of the meddling owner, are going to, in a way, bail out Howie Roseman. It's going to start with that little spark of, well, Jeffrey Lurie's really running the team. It's not so much Howie. Howie's got to do what Jeffrey Lurie says, so I'm not that mad at Howie. It's just going to start with a little spark to start the fire. Then I think Howie is going to take Kyle Pitts at number 6 overall. And if he doesn't take Kyle Pitts at number 6 overall, he's going to draft a sexy player. He's not going to draft an O-lineman. He's not going to draft a corner that we're going to make equations to like Sidney Jones. Like, that's not going to happen. He's going to take a weapon for Jalen Hurts and not somebody on the offensive line. He's going to take a Devontae Smith. He's going to take a Waddle. He's going to take a Kyle Pitts. He's going to take somebody that we're going to go, oh, we got a weapon in the arsenal for Jalen Hurts. He's going to do that for a couple of reasons. And I do think Jalen Hurts just looking good is going to be part of that. Because if he could get at least a couple of good games from that offensive line, and we're hoping that it's not just a couple of good games for the offensive line. And look, there might be an opportunity now with the moves that Kansas City just made. Maybe you could trade Andre Dillard to get even more picks in return. Maybe that's something that could go on there. But I think with the way this whole thing is playing out, I think Howie's going to be seen in a much different light by Eagles fans by the start of training camp. And the reason I think that is because he's going to take a sexy pick. He's going to take a weapon there for Jalen Hurts. Because if Jalen Hurts has somebody he can rely on, a playmaking receiver, whether that be a versatile tight end like Pitts or that be a wide receiver like Devontae Smith or Waddle, for instance, you take any one of those guys, people are excited. Can't wait to see the weapon that Howie got. That's going to make Howie look good. It's also going to make Jalen Hurts look good, a guy that Jeffrey Lurie has already said I want you to build around. So if you have a 1-2 punch, a good dynamic duo for Jalen Hurts or a good partner for Jalen Hurts, people are going to be excited. Then you build through the second round. They have the two more compensatory picks that they can play with in the 6th round. Maybe you can move up for another 5th round pick. I have this strange feeling that Howie will do the thing that comes most naturally to him, which is decrease the cap. And they save about $9 to $10 million with the Javon Hargrave restructure now. So you keep on bumping that number down, and people are going, okay, this is the thing that comes naturally to Howie. He's doing what he does really well, what he does great by making cap room, by manipulating the cap. So Howie's doing that. All right, moving the ball forward. Oh, wait, a lot of this is Jeffrey Lurie's fault? How mad should I be at Howie? Even looking Howie even better. And then I actually think he's going to make a draft pick or two that's really going to wow people. And I think we're going to be looking at this. And then I think he'll make a trade. He'll get somebody that'll wow us and all that. I think this offseason is a offseason where we're going to do an about face. And I know he's still going to have people that are going to be skeptical. And maybe I'm setting the bar for him. Maybe I'm setting the bar for Howie Roseman way too high. But I think by the end of this offseason, so by the beginning of training camp, I think people are going to be looking at Howie like, maybe Howie's not so bad. Maybe the bigger problem with this team is the meddling owner, Jeffrey Lurie. That's the first thing I want to get to in Morning Rush, brought to you by Sky Motorcars. The second thing I want to get to here in the Sky Motorcars, I actually just referenced it, Andre Dillard possibly being traded. I'm all for it. I know they moved up to get Andre Dillard in the first round, and I know they drafted him to be Jason Peters' replacement. Well, that hasn't worked. I don't think Andre Dillard is going to be anything, at least not in Philadelphia, and maybe he's the guy that's changed the scenery. And look, is it unfair to draft to evaluate somebody you've barely seen? Yeah, maybe, but I'm going with my gut. In talking to Andre Dillard, in listening to people that have played the sport and played that position, and listening to their opinion, they don't think he has it either. I do know that people are impressed with Jordan Mailata, and you've seen a lot of Jordan Mailata. You've seen a lot more of him than you have Andre Dillard. But you also have to think of it like this. Andre Dillard's played this game. He's played this sport. He was a first-round draft pick, for crying out loud. Jordan Mailata is a rugby player from Australia. Never played football up until like 3 years ago. And I've seen players, former players, not just one, but former players that have watched his game and watched his game grow that thought from the get-go, just with the strength, agility, athleticism, if he could become just a semblance of a football player, he'll be great. Well, guess what? All that is gelling together for Jordan Mailata. It started last year. He wasn't Pro Bowl caliber by any means. He wasn't, an amazing left tackle by any means last year. He wasn't some amazing godsend of an offensive lineman last year. But he was good. And if you're good at football, good at being a left tackle of just 3 years of playing that spot, I'll be willing to pour some more water on you and see how you grow going into your next season of actually being a starting offensive lineman on this football team, starting left tackle for this football team. So, I'll continue to watch that grow, and hopefully it continues to bear fruit. But, Andre Dillard, I absolutely think, is going to be dangled out there in the trade market to try to get something else in return, especially in this draft when you are. Look, Howie Roseman can wave a magic wand all he wants. I still think you're going to try to alleviate yourself from as much cap situations as possible, especially when you just took on the biggest cap hit in NFL history with the Carson Wentz trade. Lastly, and I teased this yesterday, this story of living at Veteran Stadium, the vet that was living at the vet for about 3 years came out in a book and said this. I'm blown away by this because I know people that have come to Philadelphia and couldn't stand being at the vet for more than like 2 hours for a game. Like, this Phillies game is dragging. We got to get out of here. Like, this place reeks. I couldn't imagine living there. Apparently, he was living in like a broken down concession stand. Not concession stand, but a concession. I don't even know what you'd call it. Outlet, post, whatever. So for 3 years, he lived at the vet. If you could live in one former stadium, what would it be? Would it be the Spectrum, all indoors? Would it be the vet? I think it would be kind of smelly. Where would you live? Would you live at Connie Mack Stadium? Stadium I was never in. Where would you live if it was a broken, no longer at a JFK Stadium? Where would you live if you could live in one former stadium? I think most people would say the Spectrum. I would go for the indoor. I'd go for the indoors. That's what I would do. Or maybe one that's still standing, that's just not used anymore professionally. The Palestra. Would you play at would you live at the Palestra? All right, I would. Where would you live? Would you live at the? I don't even know. Oh, Franklin Field was the other one I was thinking of, also on Penn's campus. Former stomping ground of the Eagles, as a matter of fact. Where would you live if you could live in one place? We'll look at those comments on social media on Monday's show. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, our big bet segment brought to you by DraftKings. So here's what your boy did yesterday. Your boy, as he said yesterday, bet the Pelicans against the crappy Minnesota Timberwolves. And it's not a bad beat, but I doubt it's going to happen again. So maybe in that regard, it's a bad beat. But by definition, it's not. I bet the Pelicans at -8 to cover against the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves went on to shoot 50%. 50% from the floor. I believe 48% from three-point land. Meanwhile, Brandon Ingram had one of his worst games of the season. Zion Williamson had a bad game. Like, everyone just basically wet the bed for me, so I lost that bet. And then I was feeling myself. I was like, Pelicans got this. I got cocky. So I was like, let me take the Sixers under. No Ben, no Joe. They're not going to have that same offensive fluidity, more bench players. Bench hasn't played well, and I don't think the Bulls are going to rattle off a lot of points in this game. And sure enough, the under was 229. And I believe the total final score was 233. So I lost 2 bets last night, like a big fat idiot. I like how I told you I was rarely going to bet the Sixers. And then right before the game, I'm like, hey, you know what? There's some more free money just lying there on the table. And instead, I'm a big fat idiot. You know what I appreciate about my wife? I tell my wife when I lose my bets. What I appreciate is she doesn't go, oh, why do you bet? She goes, stop beating yourself up over this. And I'm like, don't say that, because that'll just make people be like, well, she's fine with it. I'll just bet more. But anyway, at least when I bet, I have fun betting with DraftKings, no matter how big an idiot I am. But that was our big bet segment brought to you by DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, and maybe you won't be an idiot like me. So there you go. Oh, Nasty Knuckles checking in, say the Spectrum. You would definitely live at the Spectrum. Some people have actually slept in that building. I don't doubt it. I know people that have slept in that building. Thomas is making a comparison to with Howie Roseman, similar to that of I think we consider him more of a dictator than a president in this country. But yeah, anyway, not Howie, somebody else. I won't go there. But anyway, that's the show for this week. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I certainly did, and I'll be back with you guys on Monday, of course. Don't forget, I believe we spring forward a little daylight savings over the weekend. I know I always need somebody to remind me, and I had a blast with you guys this week. As always, I'll be checking back with you guys on Monday. We're looking to talk to hopefully Mark Zumoff coming up on Monday from your 76ers broadcast. So make sure you subscribe to the show on YouTube. As always, we're also on Twitch across all social media platforms. Give us a follow on Facebook at Farzy Show as well. My thanks to Jim Hyden who produced the program. My thanks to D-Ray, and my thanks to Josh Weinfeld of Buzz Sports and Entertainment. Had a blast with you as always, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back with you on Monday on the Farzy Show here at the Steven Singer Studios. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you later.